Hello, everyone, and welcome to the HonesTea Podcast. In each episode, we dive into what it's like to work at Cost Engineering by having an honest conversation with our colleagues. My name is Bram, corporate recruiter at Cost Engineering, and today I'm joined by Sjouke. We're going to talk with Sjouke about the ins and outs of his job, the team dynamics, and how the team contributes to the future of our field. As the podcast name suggests, we always start off by asking the question on the tea bag. Sjouke, thank you for joining, first of all.
Thank you.
Can you start off with the question on the tea bag?
Well, it's in Dutch, but let's translate it for the sake of it. Where would you most like to be right now?
So,
Well, people might think far from here, but despite that, I'm going to say this is a pretty good place to be, because back home they are doing construction work and it's very noisy.
I've heard it last week when I had a call with you. Yeah.
Exactly.
Is it still going on?
Still going on.
Still
Should
that bad,
be
though?
finished tomorrow. But even besides that, after all the Corona and working from home experiences, it was really nice not to have to commute the first while.
I see.
And now it's really nice to see your colleagues again.
Because you're living in somewhere in Leiden, right? Quite far away, actually.
Indeed, in
Yeah.
Leiden, it's a reasonably distant trip, but besides the whole trains and delays and all the stuff we get, it's a nice place to live. You're close to Amsterdam, close to The Hague, lots of museums.
So to get back to that question, is there any specific country you wish to be in? Or maybe not right now, but any favorite holiday destination?
Still a lot of places I would like to see.
Pick one.
I want to see Istanbul.
Istanbul.
It's still on my list. Muga, our database expert, has told me that if I go there, the traffic will probably kill me, but I will love all the history. And
We'll get back to you about the history part. But thank you at first for being honest. That's worth an applause. So maybe to start off with, can you start with an introduction of yourself? Who are you? What do you do here? Where do you come from? All that stuff.
all right, I'm Sjouke. I have been working at this company for more than 5 years now,
Damn.
which sometimes still shocks me when I
Yeah.
remember. But doesn't really feel that way. To come back to your previous comment, once upon a time in a distant past, I studied history. When I did that, I had a pretty great time of it. Did it in Leiden, actually. People would always ask me, yeah, history, cool, but what kind of job are you going
What
to
can
get
you do?
later?
Yeah.
And when I was 18, I thought that was a really stupid question. And by the time I was in my 20s, I was starting to think that's actually a pretty good question. Then I tried being a teacher for a while. It turned out that everybody who says being a teacher is terrible, they are right. Or maybe I was just being terrible at being a teacher. And one day, my brother gave me a book, How to Learn Python the Hard Way, programming language.
That is something completely different.
Completely different, and it was honestly something where I had always thought programming, that's something my brother does. I mean, I have a whole bunch of brothers, and most of them are tech nerds, and they were programming when we were kids, and I had to struggle to even get a bit of time on the family PC because my brother was trying to make a video game or something.
I see.
But much later, I got that book, started working through it, and hey, I found it's actually not some magic art only super nerds can do. I could also do it.
It's also for the
and
common man.
I actually had fun doing it.
Yeah.
And I was looking for something new to do and ended up at what they call in English, the Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences, what we call the Amsterdam High School. But if you're speaking English, that sounds a bit less. And they offered all these retraining programs where you can learn software engineering and find jobs. And, here I am.
Here I am. Yeah, you got in touch with cost engineering then, and you started out as a junior, I imagine. What did that look like? I mean, it's a completely different thing. History, programming. Of course, you got educated on it, but like to work in an actual company, how did that, work out for you at start?
It's very different than history. It's very different than schools and teaching. It's, 9-to-5 job. But to be quite honest, I'm having a lot more fun with this than I ever did studying history. I still absolutely love history. I live in Leiden in part because of all the museums that are there.
Yeah.
I like to travel. I like to read about history on my commutes. But when it comes to doing the work, being in an archive and researching some really obscure topic, or having to make a lesson plan for 13-year-olds, it is a lot less interesting. Here, when you're a programmer, you make stuff. At the end of a week, at the end of a year, I have all these programs that I created. And we are solving actual problems for people. We have to think along with them. We can actually see sometimes how we make their lives easier. Sometimes we make it harder when we cause some problem, but those we fix.
Yeah.
And it's also really varied. We're working, the company isn't really huge when it comes to the software department, but we have...
Like how many people are working in, like as a software engineer in the department?
Here in the office, I think we have some 15 people or so.
Okay.
I sometimes lose count, we keep hiring them.
Sorry.
And then we have a couple of external teams in Moldova and in Belarus. And we also have some testers in India, one tester.
Yeah.
So all in all, there are a lot of people. We're currently working on a really big program. So we have our stand-ups, which software engineering people will recognize that word. And there are 15 people at it right now. But previously I worked in a team with like 4 or 5 people.
Yeah. Yeah. So those people externally, like in Moldova and stuff, they have been working with us for a longer time, right? So we do see them as like our own colleagues, but just living somewhere else, if I'm correct.
Indeed. Yeah. It's just about as long as I have, actually.
Yeah.
Some of them have actually come over here before the whole Corona thing. We took some of our colleagues to see the Netherlands, to go to the film festival in Rotterdam. And most of them actually think the Netherlands are a pretty cool country.
Despite the bad weather.
Yeah, I don't know how much better it is if you live in Russia and have winters there.
Not sure either. You're right.
No, we Dutch people, we like to complain about our country a lot. So
that is true.
It's actually good for us when we get these people from a different place and they say, wow, you guys have it pretty good here. So
I feel you. Yeah.
We ought to take that into consideration.
So what stuff are you working on? Like you started as a junior, you went 5 years in, 6 years. What have you been working on? And with what technologies, for instance, are you working?
Well, lots of stuff. If I think back, everything we do here is Java almost.
Okay.
We have a bit of JavaScript. Our mobile guys, they do their own thing. But we who work on our main program and on our backend stuff, it's Java all the way.
Yeah.
Our main product is Cleopatra. That is a giant software suite.
Okay.
It's growing bigger every year. And almost all the work we do involves that somehow.
Yeah.
When I first came here, I was being mentored by Mark, who is this really enthusiastic guy, very knowledgeable. And he said, great, you're here.
Yeah.
I have this great idea for a project you can do. I had first seen Java 6 months earlier when I started the education, but he dragged me in a meeting with the CEO, and he had all these ideas of how I could make a new program to improve our internal process for our e-learnings. And I sat in a meeting trying to follow along. He later told me he didn't realize that I was screaming inside. I really didn't understand anything of what they were asking of me, but I took notes. And after the meeting, I took the time to actually think through them and ask help of people. And I actually got it done.
Yeah.
So what we do is broadly 2 or 3 things. We write individual plugins for customers, small programs that are independent. My first program was such an independent little program, only used internally because they didn't want to expose clients to my work before they had checked that I actually could do it. And besides that, we also keep developing Cleopatra itself. We keep adding new modules. The idea that Christian has, our CEO, is to cover the entire process of the development cycle of these big projects inside our Cleopatra software suite. So we keep adding things. When I first came, we were adding the benchmarking module. After that, I worked on the form tracking module, and now I'm working on the work package module, which is the biggest we've
quite
ever
large,
done.
eh?
Indeed.
Yeah.
And inside that, I've done all kinds of things. We work on the back end. We have to make sure that the business logic is aligned. Since I came here, we've really been trying to improve our internal processes. We've been adding a lot more business analysts, product owners. We've been trying to move along with the whole agile buzzwords.
Yeah, because the entire development is done in-house, right? So we have every discipline in the department, if I'm correct.
Pretty much. We have from designers to web developers to we recently hired a Dutch student, as in Dutch literature students, to write our manuals and do the translations of our software. So we really try to cover the whole thing. And
cool. And this Cleopatra software you talk about, I mean, it's our main product. We try to develop it even more every time. What does it kind of do in a nutshell for clients? Like, why is it useful for them?
Well, if you are sitting at home browsing your iPhone for the latest app, you probably aren't going to need it. If you are in industry and you have a big factory and need to do a turnaround and want to make sure that your machines are down only for the absolute minimum time required without missing any vital steps in the process and without causing problems that will later cost millions to fix, then Cleopatra might be the kind of software that you need. It started out as cost estimating, which is why cost engineering is still in our name. About, the actual technical details, we need to ask the guys who are sitting in this part of the office, the cost engineers, they understand the business logic of all that. But on the software side, it's about processing large quantities of data to make accurate estimates. And then on top of that, we have all the other modules that do benchmarking and project analysis and so forth.
Seems a pretty niche industry we're actually talking about.
Well, I really can't think of any industry that doesn't need estimates of what things are going to cost and how to schedule them and how to analyze that your projects are running on time. So it's niche software in the sense that it's only going to be used by serious industry players, but it is a very vital product, I think.
I see. And so what do you feel are the main challenges in your job itself? Like what you do on a daily basis? What's the main challenge you face?
Several. One of them, and the one I actually enjoy the most, is translating business requirements that we get from our cost engineers and the clients into something that can actually be done in software.
The specs.
The specs, yes, and then also, how do you implement them? No matter what you do, no matter how good your specs are, the moment you start implementing it, you discover there are things you didn't think of, you discover there are problems, and then you have to solve them. And that is the dialogue that you then have to have between the software developers, between the business analysts, the people who actually use it. And you never know which problems you are going to get, and it always requires a creative thinking to solve. And I really enjoy that part, especially when you manage to do something and it really solves the problem. It really makes things work.
So this dialogue, like it is a part of your job, but what kind of a developer usually is here in cost engineering? Is it someone who has contact with clients a lot? Is it just developing all day, or like what's kind of the different things, and also the thing that's most common in the job?
We don't have direct client contact.
Okay.
It happens occasionally if you work on the plugins, but for the most part, there are the specialists who do that, and it's the other people inside the company you communicate with. What you typically do, it again depends on which part of the company it is, but we have our sprint plannings, we have our planning for the development cycle, and then you pick up the issues you think you can work with. Because a lot of people here have been working here for years already. They are really knowledgeable about both Java in general and about our specific software that we have developed in-house. We have a lot of frameworks and things we just developed in-house that we use.
Yeah.
And, well, then you plug away at it until it's time for the next meeting.
Yeah.
Which fortunately are pretty rare for the software department. We spend most of our time actually writing code and reviewing code.
Solving the puzzles and actually coding.
Yeah. Code reviews are another thing we take very seriously here. We spend a lot of time reading each other's code and making sure everything is up to standard. I've seen the quality improve a lot in the years.
It's key, right? Quality.
Yeah, but it's one of those things that is very easy to say, and what it looks like in practice, well, in practice it looks like nothing gets merged until people have looked at it and thought about it and made sure it's up to spec.
Yeah. Sorry. So what about the team? Is it only very experienced people? Is it also young people? Different backgrounds. Can you describe a bit more about, what the entire department looks like with all the developers?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, we keep hiring new people. So there are all kinds of people who haven't been here very long. But there are also some real veterans who have been here for years and know everything.
Yeah.
And how shall I put this? Generally, inside the office, the teams are pretty tightly knit. We try to work together, but also talk to the people who are currently working on other projects. We try to do some activities with our colleagues outside of work also. We have bi-weekly game nights.
Game nights? Is it like gaming or like board gaming?
Board gaming is
board
the
gaming.
only gaming.
So is it like the typical Monopoly and stuff, or like the more strategic, time-consuming bluff games maybe? I don't know.
It varies.
Okay.
There are people who are pretty heavily into it. I myself hadn't played a board game for 10 years before I came here, but I really enjoyed that. So there are people who are always bringing the new stuff that you get from the German game development scene. It's a pretty mainstream hobby these days.
Yeah. And is it like for everyone? Can everyone join that night, or is it only for developers?
We have a few colleagues who are dedicated to getting as many other people into our game nights as possible.
Yeah.
So we always invite everybody. We certainly expect to see you next game night, Bram.
I think it's this Friday, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I'm going to join because it's the last time. Because I'm also going on holiday in 2 weeks, so I think. Well, I'm not making any promises now, but I think I will join. Yeah, because also another colleague asked me to bring some Magic the Gathering cards because he was kind of curious how that works. So I'm going to bring that as well to see if he likes that. So we're going to play a bit of Magic the Gathering.
Always
also
intimidates me.
You know it?
So many rules, and they just keep adding new cards.
Yeah,
and you have to.
It's a bit too much sometimes, and also collaborating with different games like Warhammer and. Even Lord of the Rings. They're going to add a new series next year, collaboration with Lord of the Rings. So,
I personally enjoy the bluffing games more, where you are sitting with your colleagues and
trying to convince that you're not the one they should vote out.
Exactly.
Nice. So, if people are watching now and they're like looking like, what kind of a job should I take? Just graduated, computer science or equivalent, or also the same you did. Maybe they were a history teacher before and they want to be a programmer and they're looking for their first programmer job. Why would they need to choose us? And maybe you can also give them some advice, like what should you do as a starter?
Well, I myself have only started once in software.
That is right.
But from my experience, there are a lot of people here who are really good at what they do and are really willing to spend the time to teach you things. I learned a lot here, and you just get in a lot of practice. You don't know what the job is like until you do it. And here there is a lot of very serious software work. You get a lot of hours programming, there are a lot of things to learn and practice. And that's how you actually acquire the skills beyond the theoretical framework you learned in college.
Learning on the job, is it kind of, instead of just learning from books. Actually start doing.
Jobs involve learning on the job. It's always different in practice.
Yeah. All right. Well, Sjouke, thank you for being so honest. That's of course some applause for you. It was nice that you joined me and gave some insight on what it's like to work, as a software engineer in the Department of Cost Engineering and working on Cleopatra Enterprise. If you feel inspired by the story of Sjouke, be sure to visit the website careers.costengineering.eu. You can check out the role, the vacancy, and also go to our blog page. It also has more personal stories from other developers. And if you haven't done so, follow also our LinkedIn page, Cost Engineering, to stay up to date of all the things we're doing. So for now, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next HonesTea Podcast.
It's a terrible pun, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, we didn't record.